Guys, you don't need to choose between price and quality to get an amazing and affordable shave. DollarShaveClub.com is the answer. To prove how amazing their shave really is, right now, they're going to give you your first month free to join the club. DollarShaveClub.com delivers amazing razors right to your door for a third of the price of what the greedy razor corporations charge. See why over 3 million members love Dollar Shave Club. They're so confident in the quality of all their products. Now, you can get your first month of the club for free. Just pay shipping. After that, it's just a few bucks a month. No long-term commitment, no hidden fees. Go to dollarshaveclub.com/Greggy. That's dollarshaveclub.com/Greggy. Nick.
Yes.
What's your topic?
My topic actually goes along with something Tim said earlier, which was we were talking about art and what value does art have, true value does art have in society. I watched a lot of films over the weekend, one of which was a film called The Neon Demon. And this is a film by Nicholas Winding Refn, who is the gentleman who did a movie called Drive with Ryan Gosling.
I like that movie.
And also did another movie called Only God Forgives with Ryan Gosling.
I heard people didn't like that movie.
Yeah, I mean... and we'll get to that in a second. The question is, I watched a documentary. His wife made a documentary about him while he was making Only God Forgives. So they were in Bangkok the entire time. He had moved his whole family there for 10 months, or I think, 10 weeks maybe, to do the pre-production and then the production of the film. And during the documentary, you sort of start to see... He doesn't necessarily want to share where he's at emotionally, but you can start to see him unwind a little bit, because Drive was by far his most commercial work that he's done as a major release in the United States. He's done some other stuff in I believe he's from Denmark. So he's done some stuff in Europe, but Drive was sort of seen as an art film that has a tremendous commercial value, right? A lot of people, good word of mouth, made its money back. Soundtrack. Everyone loves the soundtrack. It took Ryan Gosling from like The Notebook Ryan Gosling to like megastar Ryan Gosling that he is right now. I mean, he had a few other films in there as well, but it helped kind of usher him in as like, hey, I'm a serious actor. This is awesome. This is happening. And then you get Only God Forgives, which is what the documentary follows. And you start to see him struggle with the idea of he knows he's not making a commercial work, right? Only God Forgives was a art film. It was a film that was just laden with symbolism and foreshadowing and a lot of thematic devices and not a lot of dialogue and not a story that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it does when you kind of sit back and just let it affect you. I liked it. My wife walked out of the room probably about 20 minutes and was like, not for me. This is not a good or bad film. Just I can tell it's losing my attention. And so I'm like, I'm going to watch The Neon Demon because I really want to see what this guy does next. But during the documentary itself, he has a moment where he basically freaks out at the camera, and it was like, and I thought it was a really, really poignant thing, because I think it's the thing all artists struggle with, right? Is that she goes, why are you like this? Why are you being like this? And he goes, because this film is just not fucking good enough. It's not good. You don't understand. Like, it has to be perfect because it's not commercial. If that makes sense. It's not going to make any money, so it has to be fucking perfect, so that when people watch it, they think this is a true piece of art that deserves to be, made, and I'm worth something, versus most other people who direct films are only worth whatever their film makes, right? Like, I don't know if Jon Favreau really necessarily thinks about the art behind Iron Man, right? Or Iron Man 2. He just goes, this is going to be a fun movie, I'm going to make it, and it's probably going to make a lot of money, and I'll get another gig, right? Where you have on the opposite polar side of that spectrum, you've got Nicholas Winding Refn, who is only concerned with making something amazing and doesn't give a shit about the commercial value of it, and he's not being rewarded for that. So I just kind of wanted to get your guys' perspective, like, where do you feel like in this day and age, either art films or art games, we can open it up to whatever, how does that fit in with our culture these days?
I mean, I think this is actually a great jumping off point for it, because that director in particular, like, just looking at Drive.
Yeah.
I don't think Drive's a great movie. Like, I think that it has a lot of issues, and when you look at it as a whole, it's just like, it's good, but I don't think it's great. Having said that, I think it's a fantastic movie.
Right.
Like
that's perfect. That's a perfect way of putting it. Right?
It is so there's so much thought that's put into things. So that when you look at all the little pieces, it's like, man, these are all so good.
Yeah.
But then when you look at it a whole, I feel it's like, oh, it missed something. But it's like, I can't identify what that something is. And I think that when you put them all together, they don't necessarily all work together, which is the issue. But every single thing is so good. There's a YouTube channel, Every Frame of Painting, and Kevin put me onto them, and they do. This one guy does awesome breakdowns of movies or just any type, an aspect of filmmaking, whatever. Sure. There's a whole episode just about Drive, about how it's something I think he called it the quadrant system, where every shot in the movie, it's really divided so that like things are happening in one of the 4 quadrants of the frame, so that always is enhancing the story. Like there you can see it on search in YouTube because it is brilliant. There's the scene in the hallway where the woman they just miss each other, and then she goes into her room and he goes into his for the first time, and then they kind of repeat the motif there, and just the way that they're in the hallway and how they see each other and how far back they are, you can watch it without audio, and you can get something out of it. And there's other scenes in it as well, like the elevator scene and a lot of things, and it's just it really tells this story. And the intro to that movie, to me, feels like one of the most perfect 10 out of 10 short films. Yeah. You could have ended right when he's walking out of the stadium and just been bam. And it's just thought-provoking. There's so much going on there without much. There's not even a single line of actual dialogue. There's a little bit of
there's no backstory of who he is, no backstory of why the guys are robbing this thing. It doesn't matter. It's about them coming together for those 30 seconds that he's going to wait for them before he takes off.
You don't know if he's good or bad. You don't know any of this stuff. It just happens. And then there's a movie that happens after. Yeah. And I think that's where it's crazy, where it's you can kind of take that intro out of the movie and the movie could still happen.
No, yeah.
And that to me is what's most interesting, is that whether it's the beautiful intro or the relationships that these characters have, even now thinking about it, I don't think I could tell you what the plot of that movie is from beginning to end. There's I get the general.
That's the thing too with Drive. There's not a terrible amount of plot. It's not, and that's the question is so that was my exact reaction to watching Neon Demon, which was I was this is not what my concept of a good movie is.
I've never even heard of that one. What's that? What's
the movie itself is, again, it's hard to kind of summarize, but it's Elle Fanning is the star. And it's about a young girl who comes to LA to be a model, basically. And it's a hyper realized, hyper violent, hyper over sexualized commentary on what the model industry is and how superficial society is, and how, without giving too much of the plot away, she is sort of, if you want to say, possessed by this sort of this neon demon, this need to feed off of this, off of how people perceive her.
Okay.
And she buys into it and becomes this thing that then, starts to, it just consumes her, and everyone around her either wants a part of her or wants to kill her. And it's, even the first frame of the film is it starts on this stunning frame of her laying down with her throat slit, but it's beautifully composed, and as it pulls out, you start to see flash bulbs, and it's a photo shoot.
Yep.
And so things like that.
She's okay.
But obviously, it's foreshadowing some sort of trauma or chaos she's going to go through in her character development. Not a lot of plot. What I just told you right there was the entire plot of the movie. If you go in expecting there to be
more,
any other things that happen to her, no.
But I think that's awesome. Again, with Drive, it's we didn't need more. That's just what's happening. You can kind of just add whatever it is you need to it, because it is. So the trailer for that movie, for Neon Demon, I remember seeing it. I think you saw it too. I think I was watching a movie with you. But I was blown away by it, where I'm man, this is my type of movie, in that it is just style over substance. Absolutely. Then at the end it says the director of Drive or whatever. And I was man, I'm totally wrong. It is substance over style. They're just using that style to accentuate the substance that there is. The trailer reminded me of a music video that I want to see, and I can imagine that the movie was just a very long music video that's thought out to tell a story, whatever it needs to be, in the same way that those art pieces, the art music videos that are made, would do the same thing.
I mean, that's a perfect way of talking about it, right? Where it is in the rawest sense combining audio, visuals, and color in some way to evoke emotion without necessarily needing to worry about the classic style of screenwriting where, you know, there's a catalyst, the first act turning point, a midpoint where the person none of that shit is there. Okay. This is like going to the De Young or the MoMA and seeing an image that both, you know, turns you on and terrifies you at the same time, and then staring at it for 20 minutes and then walking away and then thinking about that. That's exactly what this film is.
And what's cool about it to me is seeing that trailer, I immediately got vibes of Black Swan.
Oh yeah,
where it's just because, you know, like dancing, photography, modeling. There's a lot there. But I think that Black Swan is a bit more, and Aronofsky, also another director that is very like arty.
He's very artsy,
that stuff. But even that is more. There is a real narrative, and that is the point.
Sure.
His shots and stuff enhance the narrative. Whereas I think that with Neon Demon, without seeing it, just seeing the trailer and based on seeing Drive, like it is the shots themselves are telling a story that while it enhances the plot, I think that story is the real important story.
Oh yeah, I mean, you could watch it probably without this. I mean, I wouldn't watch it without the sound because he always picks amazing soundtracks and amazing composers to work with.
Yeah.
Dude, that's
the best part.
Chromatics and Kavinsky from Drive were just that first
song.
That
song is awesome.
Where it's like I think it's called "Tick of the Clock" is so good in Drive, and again, that was another one of those things where you watch "Only God Forgives," and I had the same reaction to that, where I was like, this is not a film in the conventional sense of how I think of a movie. This is not a movie. This is a film. This is something that you're going to walk away from and have a reaction to it. And maybe it's a bad reaction, but there's some merit in that, right? Whereas, you know, if I watch a really bad sequel to a Marvel film and I'm like, whatever, there's no reaction, didn't evoke any emotion other than boredom, I don't know that that's good. But the question is, you know, why... It sucks to say, but like, you know, I don't know how many more chances he's going to get to make films like this because they're not making, you know, I looked at the budget of it. I think it only grossed about $1 million and cost about $7 million to make. But it sucks because I don't understand why more people aren't open to that. And I see it in myself. When I sit down, I start to immediately revolt against the experience of saying like, this is not, this is the age-old adage of like, you have to give audiences exactly what they want, but a little bit different. You know, you have to give them exactly the same thing as before, but different. Is like, this is totally different, and why am I revolting against this? Why don't I just sit back, turn the lights off, and experience this? And once you do that, holy shit, it's a ride.
I think that's a totally different topic too, of just like, does art deserve money? Does art need money?
And that's the thing is like, and not knowing him or his body of work outside of Drive, like, isn't it possible that he should just make movies with less smaller budget so that he can make a greater profit, so he can flip it that way?
I think that's what he's started to do. I think ever since Drive, I think the budgets have gone down a little bit. At least Only God Forgives, I think was I think twice the budget of Neon Demon. I don't know. I have to look him up on IMDb. Yeah, I mean, theoretically, yes. Yeah. And I'm sure this, I don't know about this one, but I don't know how you market this film, right? I don't know how you know, Elle Fanning is notable. You've seen her. I don't know if she necessarily is going to put butts in seats. I don't know if people are going to come and watch the movie simply because she's in it, right? It's not like she's Emma Watson or Emma Stone, rather. This is not a Channing Tatum movie. This is not a big movie that you can go out there and market. And how do you market it? Because the trailer is literally just shots.
But
right?
the thought of my argument, not being the movie guy at all, right?
Sure.
My argument would be like, do you need to market it? It sounds like it's going for a very specific audience like you, right? It's from the gaming side. It's like when there's some weird ass indie, you know, it's a Western RPG, but they're making like your classic JRPG, and they're doing this, and it's only coming out on PC. And as you just go getting more and more niche, that niche audience has to take care of it. They're not buying ads on IGN for that thing, right? They know that that's going to find it. They know they're not going to get most likely rich off of it, but that's how it's got to be traded. Because like, I am mass consumer movie guy, right? And it's like, I only consume, I mean, like, I'm trying to be better this year, but I mean, the amount of movies I watch a month, I mean, maybe I'm lucky to get one or two in, and it's like, then I am looking for the thing that I like. When Neighbors 2 is on Amazon, I'm going to watch it because I like Neighbors 1, and that seems like something fun to have on while I eat food or whatever. I'm not looking for the cerebral symbolism, all this stuff. I want you to tell me the story and entertain me.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I'm not so pretentious to say that I don't thoroughly enjoy exactly
no,
that
I know you're not,
experience you just talked about. I love that.
You are the analog to us with games, right? But you're with movies where you enjoy the spectrum of everything, and you can see what you like. You want to sit there and be challenged, whereas I want to sit there like I was so excited today, where I'm like, I'm gonna finish Stranger Things this week. I'm gonna watch the last 4 episodes of Stranger Things. But I was like, oh, maybe I really want to play. Oh, I can play No Man's Sky and have Stranger Things going on the iPad next to me and look over every so often when I'm mining or whatever because I really want to play No Man's Sky.
The last 4 episodes of Stranger Things are awesome.
Well, if they are, then I'll stop and I'll click them over. But it's the same thing I do with Hard Knocks, right? I put Hard Knocks on or whatever show I want to watch that I don't feel that Orange is the New Black, something I don't want to be invested in.
But here's the thing. I think it's an interesting thought that because I've been on multiple sides of this where I'm like, art isn't there's no parallel between art and consumerism or art in the market, right? But that's not true. Like the more I've realized that is that actually art just has to be good, just like anything else, and that's has to
resonate.
Yeah, exactly. That's the really hard part that people refute. It's when people are like, well, but this people don't get it. And I'm like, well, that's not the people's fault. That's the fucking artist's problem for people not getting it. People got drive, right?
Yeah, they did.
And because it was good enough. And that's maybe what he was saying was that there is a small section of people that like art housing, just like art games and art rock and all these kinds of things. It's great. I'm not saying that money has to be made by everything that exists, but money's a good indicator that something is good or something isn't, or at least that something resonates or something doesn't, right? And people are like, well, art's in the eye of the beholder. And I'm like, so is everything else. This fucking water jug is in the eye of the beholder. Whether or not this made money, I don't know. I stole this from Aaron, right?
Right.
But this is the same as art. You're buying it for the same reason. It's on the shelf and it catches your eye and then you're interested in it, before you know it, you're using it, right? Mm-hmm. And it's the same exact thing as a painting or a song. There are bands like Dredge, for instance, that I really loved, and I'm like, I really don't understand how these guys didn't get huge, but they didn't. They didn't. They're never going to. It's something that I resonate with them, but I also realize that there's probably something missing that makes them commercially successful still to this day, as opposed to the Beatles, which doesn't get any more commercially successful because they're fucking awesome.
Right.
There are a million bands from 65 to 72 or so that were like the Beatles. The Turtles had Happy Together, and before that there were the Yardbirds and all these kinds of things. None of them are the Beatles because none of them are as good.
Yep.
And that, and so we have to kind of have our hard talks about those. Journey's a great example for not the band, which is awesome, but the game. That's a really abstract, weird game. That game is a massive commercial success. Yeah. Still, years after it came out, because it's fucking awesome.
Right.
And we were talking about that as the antithesis of Abzu, which I think is just this try hard journey. We already have a journey. We don't need Abzu. And so people that were listening to the Beatles in '68, when another Beatles, when a record label very wryly tried to create their own Beatles, everyone's like, well, we don't need this other band. So they're just, you don't even know who they are now.
We already have a George.
We already have a George.
We have the Monkees.
So I guess that's what I'm saying is that I appreciate and love art, but I also think the market speaks to art just the way the market speaks to a glass, just the way the market speaks to a phone.
Mm-hmm. It's hard though, because that's my question though. But money is a decent indicator, but oftentimes what in film specifically, money is an indicator of how much marketing money has pushed. This in front of people to the point where they're going to watch it, right? A perfect example of that is Batman v Superman, which is a very divisive film. A lot of people...
No one can find any good in Transformers.
That's fairly true. That's fairly true. So the question then becomes, if people pushed something like the Neon Demon hard enough, if you put $20 million or $30 million worth of marketing behind that, would that film have made money?
I guarantee it. Because, possibly, yeah. With the trailer, without knowing it was the guy that did Drive, I saw that and was like, this looks awesome.
Right.
And with movie trailers these days, when you're talking about the Transformers or the Marvel movies or the whatever it is, comedies and stuff, it's we find those. We, especially us, talk about those things constantly. The moment a Star Wars trailer comes out, it is a matter of moments before we've seen it 3 times.
Yeah.
So for me to see a movie trailer about a movie I have never heard of is pretty rare, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's when we go to see those movies that we were just talking about, right, seeing the trailer for, that they... in between the next DC movie and the next Marvel movie, there is this random ass trailer that's like, is this a horror movie? I'm feeling a little scared, yeah. What's going on? That's cool, because it totally grabbed me and totally sold me. And that is the key to the successful art, penetrating the market. And I think that's why something like Journey, and E3, right? Press conference. We know we're going to get the new Call of Duty trailer. We're going to get the new trailer. All these games, that, even God of War. We know a new God of War is coming. We know we're getting that. But it is then what is this Journey thing? Mm-hmm. I don't know, but it's being put between all these things that we do care and know about.
Yeah, that's an important note.
That's the hard part.
That's an important note too, because I think you can market the shit out of anything to make it relevant, right?
Yeah.
But the other side of the argument to me is, what movie from 20 or 30 years ago is just this unknown quantity still. Like it's just sitting there on a shelf and someone's waiting to discover it. You know what I mean? Like it's like we already know like what like as far like back then it's like
Sure.
The Breakfast Club is like a classic. Everyone loves that movie because it's fucking awesome. But 3 O'Clock High was probably not a very good movie. And while like we have some nostalgic glasses about it and we think it's a good movie, it's not The Breakfast Club, right? You understand what I'm saying? It's like
no, a perfect example of that was like Big Trouble in Little China, right? Which was a commercial flop when it came out, and then everyone discovered it on home video and was like, wait a minute. This movie's awesome, and now it's wildly kind of held in high regard.
Right,
People, like a lot of people love that film.
Exactly, and so like I feel like it's a complicated issue, but I also think it's just it could be boiled down to like, yeah, you have all these extraneous things, the marketing and the attention you give it. Obviously, Journey is a good example of Sony Sony paid a lot of money for that game, and they're going to put their attention behind that, and maybe you force that into the limelight. But I think that if Journey wasn't given that kind of treatment, Journey would still be as big today.
You think so?
It would have just taken longer because Journey's fucking great.
Everyone
Yeah,
talks
you know what I
about
mean?
it,
Like
word of mouth
Journey
again.
is just an objectively great game, and so. And
Yeah.
I think in a way, yeah, maybe it wouldn't have made, maybe it wouldn't. I don't know how many copies it sold. Maybe it wouldn't have sold 10 million. Maybe it sold 8 million, and maybe it would have done it over a shorter period of time. But Journey is still great. Not that didn't make Journey great, and so like there are a million things I love where I'm like I don't understand how this isn't bigger, but I know that something's missing. There's a piece of the puzzle missing. It's not mass consumer enough. It's not, and it doesn't diminish its right to exist, and it doesn't diminish its value. I think Dredge is more valuable than almost any music I listen to, even though they don't even have a gold record. You know. Like I think that's just better music than anything I listen to. But Britney Spears, sold more records in probably 2 hours than Dredge sold in their entire career.
Well,
Britney Spears is not in any way, shape, or form better than them.
No.
But they knew how to market it. They knew how to market her. It existed for a period of time. It's art in its own way, and all those kinds of things. You have to interpret it based on through those lenses. I think it's relevant and important to say that. So I hate the argument necessarily that like art doesn't. Not that anyone's making it at this table, they're not, but a lot of people do, that art can't exist in market capitalism, because I think market capitalism is a great direction, a great sign on if art is art and if it's valuable or not. And these things, especially in the age of the internet, we were just talking about Shakespeare and all these kinds of things and how the internet has proliferated so many voices that we don't need a Shakespeare. We don't have a Thomas Jefferson or a Ben Franklin anymore. But it goes, that's the same kind of idea of that nothing stays hidden for very long. Ni no Kuni was a secret only to me because I had a build of it very early until everyone got it, and then everyone realized it was awesome. They didn't need me, like
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? But like I Am Setsuna, I liked it because it itched me in a nostalgic sort of way, but it's not a great game, and everyone knows that. That's why it didn't take off. That's why they lost money on it.
Yeah,
by
the way,
and so that's
I'm not saying one way or the other. I want people to make their own decision on. You can take that off, by the way. I'll just throw another one on.
I've been playing with it,
that's
like,
been giving you trouble for the last 3 podcasts. I apologize. I'm not saying one way or the other whether or not The Neon Demon is a good or bad film. I enjoyed it, but I don't think that it's not one of those films that I can outwardly say like it's great. I want everyone to go experience because it's an experience, and you should do that for yourself. But I do think that it's different than Drive. I do think that Drive had something inherently, whether it was shareable or something that you wanted to talk about, or maybe it was a little more accessible than The Neon Demon. And I think that that's what a lot of people walked away from the theaters thinking, I'm going to tell someone to go see this because I want them to know that I discovered this gem that maybe they haven't heard about, right? Whereas Neon Demon, you walk away and you're like, I think I'm going to make sure I'm going to check my door, make sure it's locked tonight.
Yeah.
And maybe watch some porn.
I think that also, I mean, when it comes to,
Trust me, you'll see it, you'll know.
When you talk about BuzzFeed and you talk about internet stuff and the culture these days, it's a sharing culture. Like you even just said it. It's like sharing something with people is saying a little bit about yourself. And I think that something that Drive had was that it was obviously artsy and obviously intellectual, and you were obviously supposed to put your own thoughts into it, but it was still accessible. And I think that allows more people to want to represent themselves that way. Whereas I think something like Neon Demon potentially is a little bit too high up there, and like maybe with Dredge as well, where it's like that's what it's missing, is that accessibility to people that aren't film buffs, you know what I mean, to pretend that they are for a little bit, like to kind of see into that world and feel like they do know what they're talking about, and they can look at the frames and be like, this is a beautiful shot.
I don't understand why or what's happening,
Yeah.
but
I've never thought that before watching any movie, but seeing this, I do get that, and I think that's like it's a little kind of glimpse into something that like makes people feel good about themselves.
If you didn't know, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Game Over Greggy Show. Each and every week, 4, sometimes 5 best friends gather on this table. Each bring a random topic discussion for your amusement. If you like that, head over to patreon.com/kindafunny, where you can toss us a few bucks and get every episode early, along with a bunch of exclusives, goodies. I swear to fucking God, Kevin. Just keep it on the wide. Why are you cutting around to the outro? It's your fucking problem.
Look. Kevin, come back to me.
Come back. Give me the rack zoom.
Zoom in on me. My stomach.
If you don't want to give us any money, I totally fucking understand. Go to youtube.com/kindafunny, where we put up the show topic by
Let the
topic.
market speak.
Day by day until the entire thing posts as one big video and MP3 the following Friday. Until next time, it's been our pleasure to serve you.